Hi, my name's Michelle from Paper Stamp Ink. Thanks for stopping by today. Today I want to showcase a card using our Tranquil Textures pattern paper and talk about how I decide what papers to use and how to mix pattern paper on a card. So this one we're actually using 4 different patterns that all come from the same set of paper. And the one great thing with Stampin' Up! Is it is all going to coordinate for you. So all of the colors are going to mix and match very easily. I like to start with picking a paper that has a lot of different colors in it. So in this case, I started with the polka dot pattern. I just thought that was fun and cheerful. And then I went from there. Now I want that to be my focal image, not the huge background piece. I prefer to have a little bit subtler option a lot of times in the background. And so I picked 2 other pieces that are more of a tone on tone, but still have some pattern and texture to them. And then I picked one that had a little bit more variation for this thin strip, so that's not competing too badly with each other. I do find that matting my papers really allows those patterns to pop, and they're not, when they're sitting on top of each other or too close to each other, I find that they aren't as distinctive. So matting is definitely a great benefit to your cards, and the matting on this is actually another piece of the paper from that pack. So we've actually used 5 different patterns on there. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's grab our paper, stamp, and ink. Now I've got my paper pieces all cut down for us to get us started. And if you're going, gosh, where do I start with getting ideas for cards? Card sketches are a great place to start. There's tons of them online. This is one from Operation Right Home. It's sketch number 170, and that's the one that I'm going to use today. Now, one thing they don't always give you is dimensions for matting, and I mixed this one up a little bit by stretching that banner to go all the way across the card and adding some embellishments up here, but they give you a good jumping off point when sometimes you just need a little inspiration. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So we've got our background piece with the blue. We've got our green tone on tone, and here's the pattern. You can't tell as much once it's matted, but that's the pattern piece that we're going to use behind. We've got our polka dot and our matting piece. I've got that fun swirl pattern and a matting piece, and then the piece for our sentiment. So let's go ahead and get started with putting all of these pieces together, and then we'll get to the stamping. And I like to use the Tombow Mono Multi. I know you guys, if you're following me, have probably heard me say that a ton of times, but for those of you who are new, it gives you that ability just to have a little bit of wiggle room when you're placing things down. Now on this matting of these, I forgot to mention the dimensions on that. I just took and cut the pieces to the same size as the card sketch, other than that strip that I mentioned, adjusting slightly, and then I added 1/8 of an inch to each of the pieces for the matting. So that gives me just a very tiny 1/16 of an inch border all the way around on my cards, or on my pattern pieces. There we go. And we've got these almost ready to go. I'm not going to mat that one with the stamping that we're going to do just yet. And I think I slightly shifted this so that it was in the middle. I think they had that one a little bit higher up, but just a little variation. Sometimes it's fun just to take pieces of paper, cut out some rectangles, squares, circles, and just play around with putting them on your card base and see what you can come up with. Oh, looks like I didn't get that corner covered, so I'm going to just squirt a little bit to make sure that sticks down there. You could also take and replace this pattern paper with some ribbon if you prefer. And those are cut slightly long, so I'm just going to come right in here and trim that off. Now let's go ahead and get started with our stamping. Before I do that, I'm going to take this this one matting piece, and if you see in here, instead of, I didn't have any dimensionals or embellishments that matched the color I was looking for, so instead I just used my hole punch and punched out 3 little holes. So I'm just going to use one of these matting pieces to punch those out before I forget, because you know what, you're never going to know that they're back there once it's put on the card. And I'm going to cut one more just because sometimes those little guys tend to float away. So, all right. Set that aside again, get that out of the way, and I'm going to use the Varied Vases Stamp set for the card today, and this is a great set. It comes with all sorts of different vase designs and patterns. It's got 2-step stamping for your florals, so you can stamp your outline and then fill in with a stamped color. They're photopolymer, so you can see through them and know exactly where you're going to be placing that stamp. It's also got some sentiments in there, and then these great little banner edges that you can use. Them just for decoration on other things. You can use them like a ledge, or that you might set your vase on. So all sorts of ideas. Very versatile set that I know I'm getting a lot of use out of, and I'm sure you will too. All right, let's pull this over in. Just a little tip. Our colors of ink we're using today are Blackberry Bliss, Soft Seafoam, and Smoky Slate. Now, you don't see any Smoky Slate in the card, so this is just something that, a tip, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who had shared this, but I thought that's a great idea, so I'm passing it along to you. I'm going to stamp that off so it's not quite so dark, and I am just going to stamp this outline of this vase very lightly so that I know where I'm putting the rest of my elements. Now, the vase, I'm actually going to color that in or cover it up with a punch before we're done. But this way it lets me know where is that vase going to sit so that my stems aren't coming out all wonky from the top. I think that's the technical term, wonky. So we're going to use a Soft Seafoam. Now these, you can get some very tall florals from here, but we obviously have a small piece to work with, so I'm only going to ink up the top of that so I don't run the risk of it coming out of the bottom of my vase and showing. If it goes inside, that's just fine because we're going to cover that up. And there we go. I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to come in. There's actually an outline and a solid, and I'm just going to use the solid for this card here. We could do 2 different colors if we want, but I can keep it simple here. And let's go ahead and I'm going to put this right about there. There we go. And I'm going to use the 2 steps on the floral, and I'm going to start with the Blackberry Bliss. Actually, I'm going to use Blackberry Bliss for both of them, but I'm going to start at full strength, and I apologize, I'm trying to not get my head in the way here while I line this up. Much easier to do if you're at home where you can lean right over the paper. But let's see how that's gonna turn out for us. And I'm gonna ink this up, and I'm just gonna stamp it off and come in and line that up. I lost a little bit of my leaf, but I think that's going to be okay. Now this stamp set comes with a punch with it as well, so I'm going to use a piece of that pattern paper and punch out this short vase. Now I could use that side too. It's an option, or pick up one of the other colors, but I kind of like that blue. Bringing that back in a little bit more subtle so that it's not trying to compete with my other panel. And now we're ready to mat this piece. Just love that color. Beautiful. And this one I actually am going to pop up on some dimensionals. And I'm using the bits and pieces that are left over, so don't throw those away when you're done. Hang on to them. They're great to use on projects like this. So probably a little overkill over what we need on the dimensionals, but we're going to go with it. And there we go. And bring this down here. We've kind of got our 3 steps going on. And the last little piece I need is to find my hello stamp. And there it is. Well, 2 pieces. I guess we've got to add those little circles back in. I don't know if you noticed when I punched that out, there's a little hello on there. I like to, the first time I'm putting a color down on pattern paper, colored ink, I like to try and test it out on a scrap piece of paper just to make sure it's going to look the way I'm intending, that the colors are going to coordinate well and not show through. If you've got a lighter color, maybe some of it's going to show through and not look the way you intended. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 3 little dots here. So, remember, if you don't have an embellishment that matches, you can always use paper. We all have little scraps of paper hanging around, or use those matting pieces and won't tell anybody that there's a hole back there. They're never going to know. All right, there we go. Oh, I shouldn't put the glue back on. We're going to put this on a card base. And I'm going to use one of my top folding. A little bit of glue. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I sure would appreciate it if you would push that button down below and subscribe. That's going to also let you know when I've got new cards coming out, new projects. I'm working on a couple of series right now. One is a craft fair series, and I'm getting ready to start a Christmas series too of Christmas cards. So hope that I've been an inspiration to you today. Thanks again for stopping by, and I hope to see you later. Keep crafting.